Today we've got strategic planning, huh?
Yeah, huh. Good stuff. Good stuff. This is the fun stuff. This is the
Ron,
one.
welcome in.
This is the one where I usually ask like restaurant owners, like, "Oh, so what's your plan?" Uh, hope I get some business. Remember, hope's not a strategy. We definitely don't want to have hope as our strategy. We want to make sure we have some strategic planning in place to make sure that our restaurant operates at its optimal. There's three things a business owner has to have in place. And I don't know if anybody's ever told you this, but there's three critical skills all restaurateurs need to develop. You need to learn how to, number one, make money. Number two, keep money. Number three, grow money. Almost 90% of restaurants are good at number one. Some are good at number two, and there's very few good at number three. If you want to be very, very successful, you have to master all three skills. You got to know how to make the money, how to keep the money, and how to grow the money. That's the big thing. Making money is easy. It really is. I mean, Luke and his team can easily turn on the floodgates for marketing and get people in your door. But if your menu is not profitable, it doesn't really matter. So today we're going to help with some of that other part, how to grow it, how to plan, how to have a strategic plan to actually take your business to the next level, take your restaurant to the next level. Sound good to everybody? All right, let's rock and roll, shall we? Remember, all business problems are people problems. Those people problems are communication problems. Usually it's lack of communication, improper communication, lack of clarity, lack of expectations, and also lack of a strategic plan. You liked how that segued right into it? That was good, huh, Luke? All right, let's talk about the rules today. Who
Very
who
smooth.
who is this their first time on a webinar with me? I always like to say who is new to the webinars, the restaurant growth webinars. Who's new? Type in the chat me if you're new to the webinar chat. If you're new to this webinar series, I see a lot of people in the group that I know. A lot of you are actually members of the accelerator program now. I see a lot of familiar names in here. I see some people there in some of my my accelerator program. I see some newbies, some new people. I've only had one session. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, you're in the right place. Well, let's talk about the rules real quick. Rules for the webinar series. Number one, have some fun. Number two, take notes. Research has shown if you write stuff down in your own handwriting, you are 70% more likely to remember the information 30 days from now. And that's my goal. And number three, take action. If you don't apply what you've learned, then you really haven't learned anything. Knowledge is not power. Application of knowledge is power. Knowledge is just potential. It depends on what you do with the tools you have, how you apply them, and to see what results you get to have if they have any kind of use to you. And every once in a while during my presentation, you're going to hear me say those famous words, hashtag WTSD. What does hashtag WTSD means? It means write this shit down. These are the gold nuggets. These are the important things I want you to remember, the little takeaways that you have to remember and use. Remember, I'm going to give you lots of gold nuggets. Your job is to take the gold nugget, pick the gold nugget up, and apply it in your restaurant. If we've never met before, I am Donald Burns. I am the restaurant coach. I am a recovering restaurant owner, which means I own restaurants in my life. I'm also a consultant for multi-million-dollar brands, billion-dollar brands, U.S. Foods, Shamrock Foods, Cisco Foods. I've consulted with a lot of them. I'm also a chef. I was a chef when I had my own restaurants. I was also a chef with Wolfgang Puck for a number of years. I'm also an author, most famously known for the Your Restaurant Sucks trilogy. And then my last book came out in January. It's called Savage Restaurant Success. And I have a new book coming out in the fall. It's called Ingredients. I'm also a restaurant investor. I invest in small startup restaurants. And I'm also a member of the U.S. Air Force pararescue teams. It probably the most powerful experience in my life was being a member of the special ops teams in the Air Force. I got to learn how to jump out of a plane. I learned how to rappel out of a helicopter. I learned about combat, search and rescue, scuba diving. It was a great experience. Taught me a lot about peak performance, mindset, and also teamwork. Everything I learned about those three things, I learned from my time in the U.S. Air Force pararescue teams. Now, when I opened my first restaurant in 1995, that's me in the middle, by the way, I thought, because I had quite a few years of experience from high school and college and in my 20s working in restaurants, I thought all you had to do is open a restaurant is just know how to run a restaurant. That didn't work too well for me. I realized quickly that knowing how to run a restaurant and how to build a profitable brand were two different skill sets. And unfortunately, like a lot of people, I just kept doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, which is the definition of insanity. It wasn't until a successful businessman who was a regular at my restaurant, maybe he saw me crying in the corner one night. I kind of make the joke that maybe I was crying and he felt sorry for me, but he offered to coach me and mentor me. And he offered me a solution. And he used it like this. He said, Donald, if I gave you a 3-digit lock and said, open a lock, could you open it? I said, no. He said, well, what if I give you the combination? I said, that would be great. He said, well, the combination to business success is quite simple. It's called the 3P framework. Now, I've expanded this model out for restaurants. The 3P framework is, in its simplicity, people, product, process. Inside each one of those locks is another series of mini locks that have to be opened to get that lock to work. You cannot do the people part unless you have your mindset right, unless you have your culture right, unless you get your hiring right, get the right people on the team. Product doesn't work unless you have the food cost dialed in, your menu design dialed in, which is highly profitable, and then you want to open up the marketing. Process is the same thing. I have to have my systems in place, accountability systems. I have to have some strategy in place, and then I have to have some profitability. Remember, people feeds process, process feeds people. Every month, someone will call me and say, Donald, I'm frustrated. Why are you frustrated? No one's following the checklist. What's wrong with the checklist? Nothing. You gave me the checklist. All right. Well, if the checklist is good, that's a systems thing. Look at the 3P framework. The very first module is people. You don't have the right culture, or you don't have a culture of accountability, or people don't know why it's important to follow the checklist. This thing works when you use it. I've taught this framework to over 2,900 independent restaurants all around the world. Doesn't matter what country you're in. The currency might change, but the system is solid. It is always people, product, process. Now, this is a high value look at it. What we do is we teach you a system within a system. It's called the Accelerator Program. And we basically take you down the rabbit hole. So in the people part, we're going to talk about strengths, mindset. I'll give you workshops and modules to help bring that out, to help understand that at a deep level. Culture, we're going to use a workshop called the Know Why Workshop to extract out that mission, core values, vision, how to roll that out to your team, how to use it with your team. Hiring, I'm going to show you a complete A to Z hiring system, how to attract better talent, how to recruit, how to interview like a rock star, how to onboard better, how to train your team properly so you don't have to keep going back and retraining them, and how to retain your team so you don't get poached. After that, we move into the product piece. Food cost boot camp. We're going to take your food costs apart, understand that gap between theoretical and actual. Every month, someone calls me without fail and says, Donald, my food cost is 30%. Is that good? And I'll say, I don't know. And they'll look at me and go, what do you mean you don't know? And I'll say, let me ask you one question. What's your theoretical food cost? And then they'll say, I don't know. I'll say, that's the problem. See, if your theoretical food cost, which is perfect world or ideal food cost, and you get that by calculating everything on your menu, every plate on your menu is costed out down to the penny, that's called theoretical or perfect world. If your theoretical food cost is 28, then a 30% food cost is actually pretty good. But if your food cost, your theoretical food cost is 21, you got some work to do. Sadly, the average restaurant has a gap between theoretical and actual food cost of 9%. Most restaurants leave so much money on the table by not understanding their theoretical food cost. Once we have that in place, now we're going to take that menu apart, Extreme Menu Makeover. I'm going to give you modules to understand guest psychology. We're going to talk about how to design a menu that actually attracts and actually stimulates sales. We're going to talk about graphic design. We're going to talk about positioning, how to price your menu properly, and then how to roll out a menu to the world. Then, once we have a highly profitable menu, now we want to focus on that organic game. Luke and his team are very great at the paid game. Your paid game will go a lot farther if your organic game is solid. Most of the time when I'm talking to people and I look at their social media, you're posting the same boring shit everyone else in your market's posting. Or you're posting these beautiful pictures of your food, nobody in your restaurants. That's the worst thing you do. Please do not post restaurant pictures with no one in your restaurant. That's the worst thing. I call it the number one sin you can do is posting boring pictures on your social media. So we're going to talk about how to win that organic game. Then we're going to protect it all with the process place, right? The process piece is going to protect everything. Talk about systems, restaurant track. We get into some strategies. We're going to talk a little bit today about strategies. We have a whole series called Strat Maps. And then we're going to really get you up to that 18 to 22% profit margin by hitting the profit clinic. Today's webinar is going to be focused in more on the strategy part. So here's the question I want to propose to you. What if instead of just winging it or hoping for a good day, that you actually could create a success, that actually could create the success you wanted? How would that be? Anybody would like that? Who would like to get off the hope bandwagon and get on the success fast track? Type in the chat me. If you want to get off the hope, I get some business and get on the success fast track, type me. Luke says me. Bill says me. Bill's already on the fast track. He's already on the way to getting there. All right. Here's a great quote. I love starting off with quotes. It's a very, very famous one from Benjamin Franklin. By failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. All right. How many people have a business plan for their restaurant for a year? Type in the chat if you have a yearly business plan. Type me. How many people have a quarterly business plan? Type me. How many people have a monthly business plan? Type me. How many people have a weekly business plan? Type me. Now, how many people actually follow their business plan? Most people don't follow their business plan. Or you have the business plan, but the team doesn't follow the business plan. Okay. If you want to make more money, if you want to be at the top of the game, you have to have a great strategy. So if you want more money, you better have a damn good strategy. So today we're going to talk about strategic planning. We're going to talk about how to craft an effective yearly, quarterly, and monthly plan. Now, if you get into a coaching program, your coach will take that monthly plan and they'll help you translate it into a weekly action plan and they'll hold you accountable for it. The most powerful thing about coaching is accountability. It's why you get a coach. You don't get a coach just to give you some new ideas. I will tell you right now, you know what you need to do to have a successful restaurant. You just don't do what you know. Right? I can give you every template, every tool you need to have a successful restaurant. Why do some restaurants succeed and some restaurants fail? It's accountability. It's not the tool itself. It's what you do with the tool, how you apply it to get the results you want, and how to understand when I'm going in the right direction and when I'm off target. A coach is like the GPS in your car. You're going to tell me where you are. You're going to tell me where you want to be, just like a GPS. You're going to start traveling down the road, and eventually you will take a wrong turn because everyone takes a wrong turn. The coach is like the GPS in your car saying, make a U-turn, go back, take the next exit. That's what a coach does because everyone goes off track. Strategic planning is the lifeblood of any successful restaurant. It's just not about jotting down a few goals. Like I got a little scratch piece of paper and wrote down some stuff and hoping for the best. It's about creating a detailed roadmap that aligns your actions with your long-term vision. This process is the foundation on which all successful operations are built. Without it, you're basically steering your ship without a compass. And that, unfortunately, leaves your business vulnerable to the winds of change, market fluctuations, and also unforeseen challenges. At its core, strategic planning is about clarity. Write that down. At its core, strategic planning is all about clarity. It's the process of defining where you want to go. And more importantly, how am I going to get there? This clarity, I tell you, this clarity is what separates a restaurant that drifts aimlessly, from one that actually moves with purpose and direction. A well-structured plan doesn't just tell you what needs to be done, it guides every single move. It ensures that each decision is a step towards the ultimate goal, right? Focus is a critical element in strategic planning because in the restaurant world, it is a chaotic environment. It's so easy to get bogged down in the daily grind, the minutia. You got staff issues, you got supply chain hiccups, you get guest complaints left and right. The power goes out, the internet goes out, credit card machines down. Without a clear plan, you are constantly in reaction mode. Where if you have a strategic plan, it always pulls you back on track and you can proactively work towards the bigger goals. You do not want to be reactive. The biggest thing about having a strategic plan and not is this. Most restaurant owners do not have a they have an outline of a plan. It's not very detailed. And if you don't have a detailed strategic plan, you're basically playing checkers, which checkers is very reactionary. Market does this, you do that. Market does this, you do that. You want to start thinking about chess. And if you really want to take it to the next level, get a coach. And when you have a coach, the coach is going to have you start thinking in 4-dimensional chess, which is really, really cool. Okay. You got to start working. You got to get out of this reactivity. And you got to get into this place where you want to start growing and succeeding and start planning for long-term success. A strategic plan is your filter. It helps you prioritize what's important, helps you sidestep distractions, and helps you maintain your energy and resources. So here's the problem. Why are you still winging it when your restaurant success is on the line? Most restaurant owners skip this critical second, and they do it half-ass. And that's where the problem starts. Because without a solid, really, really concrete, solid, detailed plan, you're setting yourself up to be reactive than proactive. Now, a lot of you might think this goes back to that 3P framework about mindset. You might think, well, Donald, I'm just way too busy to plan. The truth is, you're too busy not to plan. Without a strategic plan, you're essentially flying blind. You're making decisions on the fly without any sense of direction. Here's the thing. That approach works kind of short term, but it's a surefire way to burn out and also miss out on opportunities, those little gold nuggets that take your restaurant to the next level. So let's talk about these principles. Proactive versus reactive. Proactive versus reactive. It's a fundamental concept in strategic planning. When you're proactive, you're in control. Hashtag write that down. When you're proactive, you are in control. You are anticipating challenges. You are positioning your restaurant to take advantage of opportunities. You're not just waiting for things to happen. You are making them happen. On the other hand, when you're reactive, you are constantly playing catch up. You are constantly putting out fires. You're constantly dealing with crises all day long, and you struggle to keep your head above water. It's where most restaurants are at. This reactive approach will lead you to burnout fast, but the biggest thing, it prevents you from consistent growth and success. And you need that strategic plan to reach those things. Another thing we have to think about is opportunity is another key aspect. In the restaurant industry, opportunities don't come knocking every day. And when they do, they come and go very, very fast. A well-crafted strategic plan helps you identify and seize opportunities before they pass you by. It might be maybe expanding your menu, tapping into a new market, streamlining your operations to reduce costs, maybe a new revenue stream. Your plan keeps you ready to be able to capitalize on what's ahead. Right? So, a strategic plan's not a nice to have, it's a must have. I want you to remember that. A well-detailed, thorough strategic plan is not a nice thing. It's a must have. It's the difference between running a restaurant that merely survives and one that actually truly thrives. It's what keeps you focused. It keeps you driven. It keeps you aligned with your vision no matter what challenges come your way. And life loves to throw challenges your way. So if you're really serious about taking your restaurant to the next level, do not skip this. Invest time, invest energy, craft a strategic plan that will guide you towards the success you deserve. So how we do it? We're going to break it down into a 3-step model. First, yearly plan, right? This is the big picture, right? That's what I call like the 30,000 foot view. It's really, really important. You have to understand your yearly plan is the cornerstone of your restaurant success. Think of it kind of like a vision board. All right. When I set up my goals for the next year, which I always do it on my birthday. My birthday's in April. I always set up my vision board for the next year, what I want to look like, what I want to accomplish, where I want to travel. I put all this stuff on my vision board. It is like my strategic map that outlines where I want to go and how I intend to get there. It's the place where you not only dream big, but you also ground those dreams into reality, ensuring that your ambitions are matched with achievable steps. This is your opportunity to chart a course that will guide your decisions, your actions, and your investments that you're going to make over the next 12 months. It's so critical. Okay. So critical. How do we start? We start with reflection. Number one, before you can look forward, you need to take a good hard look back. Reflection is the first critical step in crafting an effective yearly plan. So the first thing I do is whenever I'm doing yearly planning, the first thing we do is we do a recap on what, and we ask ourselves what we call is the 3Q framework. What worked, what didn't work, how can we make it better? I look back over the past year and I start seeing what is the things that we can learn from, both our wins and our losses from the last year. What worked, what didn't work? Where do we excel? Where do we struggle? What strategies did we implement? What LTOs, what marketing plans, what led to our successes? And conversely, what went sideways? What didn't work? Where did we fall short? And also why? This isn't about blame. It's not about beating yourself up. It's just being real with the facts and understanding, hey, that did not work well that last year. Hey, this did not work as best as I thought. Hey, where did I fall short? And just being honest with yourself. It's not about beating yourself up, please. It's about just being honest. This reflection is more than just looking back. It's actually a strategic analysis to inform you of your future plan. You have to understand what drove your big wins, so that way you can double down on your strategies. And it also helps you by recognizing where you struggled. You can take corrective action to avoid those mistakes that you made. Right? This reflective process is critical because it sets the tone for the entire planning phase. I know a lot of people who do strategic planning and all they do is look forward. They don't recap and look back on the last year of what worked, what didn't work. You don't want to miss that step. It's so critical. Now, after we have that reflection, next up, we got to set crystal clear goals. So once I've reflected on the past, it's time to set my sights on the future. I have to set clear, ambitious goals. That's the heart of your yearly plan. These goals should stretch you and stretch your team. You want to push yourself to achieve more than you did the previous year. The most laziest goals in the world, I love it when people do budgeting. And I'll say, let me see your budget for next year. And they send me their budget. And I said, how'd you come up with this? Oh, I just added 10%. That's the laziest freaking thing you can do to anything in life, is just add a little bit more. No, you should have big, audacious goals. Big, audacious goals with big, audacious action get big, audacious results. Right? You have to have ambition, but you also have a little bit grounded in realism. Like if your restaurant's doing 1 million now, you're not going to do 12 million next year. It's just impossible. Okay. You want to make sure your goals follow that SMART framework. Each goal has to be specific, has to be measurable, has to be achievable, has to be relevant, and has to be time bound. This means your goals must be clear and well defined. That's specific. You should have a way to track progress. That means measurable. They should be within the realm of possibility. That means that we can achieve it. Might be a little uncomfortable, but we could probably get it if we pushed. And they should be aligned with your overall business strategy. That means relevant. And there has to be a deadline for the completion. That means time bound. So let's say, for instance, that a restaurant, their goal is, I want to increase revenue. All right, that's really vague. You set a goal instead of like, I want to increase revenue by 20% by the end of Q4, expanding our catering service and optimizing online ordering systems. Now we're talking. Now I have a goal that's precise, measurable, and gives me a clear direction to follow. Saying I want to increase revenue is BS. You're not going to hit it, right? You got to have clear targets, right? I want to increase revenue 20% by the end of Q4. And I'm going to do that through expanding catering, optimizing online ordering. That's a goal that's you could actually make it happen. After I have the goals, what's the next step? You got to break them down. Look at the entire year can look overwhelming. When you start looking at all your goals and looking at that whole year, it's like trying to see that whole cow and eating the whole cow, especially when your goals are very, very ambitious. You want to take this process, you want to make it more manageable. So I break my yearly down into quarterly targets. That's why you have to have a yearly plan, a quarterly plan, a monthly plan, and a weekly plan. These are all four required to reach high levels of achievement. Because when I break that big goal down into quarterly goals, it makes it seem it's a little less daunting. Also, it's easier to monitor my progress and make adjustments. Because you just don't set that goal. It's like, why do you think people fail? Like the majority of people, what, 90, I think it's 97% or 92% of people never reach their New Year's goals. You know why? Because they don't re-examine them. They set that new goal on January 1st. This is the year, man, Luke, this is the year. I'm going to crush it. I'm going to drop 50 pounds. I'm going to get in buff shape. I'm going to look like Wolverine. February, Luke goes, hey, Donald, how's it going? Oh, I stopped going. Because I didn't break it down. I didn't measure, manage it. I didn't have it containable where I could actually measure and monitor my progress. Breaking down your goals into quarterly chunks gives you the flexibility to pivot when things aren't going as planned. For instance, let's say your Q1 goal of boosting social media engagement doesn't really yield the expectations you want. So you have an opportunity to reassess your strategy and make the necessary changes before moving into Q2. Okay. This ongoing evaluation is going to help you stay agile and responsive to the market, which is critical. It also ensures that your yearly goals remain within reach because as you encounter obstacles, you adapt, adjust, and overcome. After we break it down, I need a plan, a really good plan. Remember, a yearly plan isn't just about, what we've already achieved. It's about growth. You want to push for growth. Now, growth takes many forms. That could be expanding your market reach. It could be enhancing your guest experience, improving operational efficiency, could be innovating your product offerings or changing revenue streams. The key is to identify where the most significant opportunities lie so you can craft a plan to capitalize them. This might mean like maybe introducing new menu items to cater to an emerging drink trend, maybe investing in technology to target a new, to streamline operations, maybe launching those new marketing campaigns that target a new demographic. Hint, hint, restaurant growth marketing team. Growth doesn't happen by accident. It's a result of intentional strategic planning. Hashtag write that down. Growth does not happen by accident. It is the result of intentional strategic planning. Now, here's the thing. Planning for growth also means being prepared for challenges because challenges always come with growth. That's just the way it is. Hate to tell you, I wish it was different, but it's just the way life is. All right. Challenges come with growth. When you say, I'm going to get into the growth game, you're also getting into the challenge game because that's what happens. Growth requires lots of resources. That might be capital, that might be manpower, that might be time, that might be getting coaching or some support systems to help you. As you map out your growth strategy, you want to make sure that you're also planning how you're going to acquire and allocate the resources required. Resource allocation is the most important thing that an owner does. A lot of times people forget that I have to understand growth is sustainable and it cannot outpace my capacity to manage it. Your yearly plan is more than just about setting goals. It's about creating a strategic vision that guides your restaurant through the challenges and opportunities that will come throughout the year. Remember, it starts with reflecting, setting clear, achievable goals, breaking those goals down into manageable pieces or chunks, and then planning for growth. Position your restaurant not just to survive, but to thrive. Your yearly plan is your opportunity to start taking control of your future. It's time to set the direction for your business and ensure every decision that you make is aligned with your long-term vision. Hashtag write this down. Do not leave your success to chance. Plan for it, make it happen, make it a choice. All right. After we have our yearly plan, next up, quarterly plans. Okay. Quarterly plans are very, very important. They are the bridge between your big yearly goals and that day-to-day operation stuff, or the weekly, basically we get down to monthly and weekly plans. Quarterly plans are so critical. Most people do not have a quarterly plan. A lot of people do a yearly plan. It's just a vague numbers and vague stuff. They don't even look at it throughout the year. They do it once a year, and then that's it. You have to review this stuff a lot to make sure you're on track. This is where strategy meets execution. This is where your vision for the year starts to materialize through focus, tactile actions. You break your yearly goals down into quarterly objectives, and you create a manageable, dynamic roadmap that keeps your restaurant on track and allows for necessary adjustments. How do we do that? First thing, you focus on what's known as key objectives. Each quarter should be driven by 3 to 5. 3 to 5, not 10 to 12. Each quarter should be driven by 3 to 5 key objectives that directly align with your yearly goals. Now, your objectives are your primary focus areas. Specifically, where do you want your business to see significant progress in the next 3 months? The key here is to be very selective and focused. Trying to do too much will dilute your efforts, and it will make it very, very difficult to achieve meaningful results. So I'll give you an example. So let's say your yearly goal is to increase overall profitability by 15%. Great goal. A lot of my clients have that goal. I want to increase my overall profitability 50% in the next year. Your quarterly objectives might be to reduce food cost, increase upsells, optimize labor costs, right? These objectives should be concrete and measurable, providing clear targets. And you track those things on a weekly basis. You have to concentrate on the few critical areas that actually will move the needle. When we talk about prime costs, which prime cost is food costs and labor costs, most people know 6, maybe 10 ways to improve their prime cost, food costs and labor costs. I will teach you in the Accelerator program, 106 ways to basically make your prime cost better. When you're looking at your toolkit and you have a hammer, a screwdriver, and a pair of pliers, and I have a huge whole workshop full of every tool you can think of, who do you think is going to get better results? The person that has more tools in their toolkit. That's why coaching with the Accelerator program is so powerful, because I'm going to give you lots of different tools. Now, is every tool going to work for you? No. But my job as your coach is to give you the tools, the training, and the coaching to use the tools properly to get results you want. You tell me what you want, I will give you a series of tools to get it. And then you pick up the tools you like, apply them to your toolkit. Now they're yours and you use them consistently and religiously. That's how we make this stuff happen. And we talked about this already, but allocate resources. Once you've identified your key objectives for the quarter, you got to determine what resources do I need to achieve them. It might be, I need more time. I need to schedule time. Maybe I need to get a partner. Maybe I need a line of credit. Maybe I need more people, better people. Maybe I need technology. Anything that can be leveraged to move your business closer to the goal is a resource that you want to allocate. Resource allocation is critical because it directly affects your ability to execute your plan effectively. So I'll give you an example. If one of your objectives is to improve, let's say, guest satisfaction scores, you might need to invest in staff training. You might need to hire additional front of the house staff. You might need to upgrade your point of sale system to get better feedback. You might need some kind of guest survey form, right? If your goal is to reduce food costs, you might need to renegotiate with contracts with your suppliers. You might need to invest in inventory management software. It's important to be realistic about what resources you have already and where you need to deploy them and what resources you need to add to give your team the tools they need to be successful. This also means that sometimes you got to make some really, really tough decisions, especially when it comes to reallocating budgets from one area to another. That could also mean maybe postponing some less critical projects to free up resources for more urgent needs, things that actually move the needle in the right direction. After we have that in set, we want to start setting really, really concrete milestones. When you're moving towards your quarterly objectives, you want to break down each one of those objectives, remember 3 to 5, into smaller, manageable milestones. These things, think of them like stepping stones that lead you to your ultimate goal. And they're going to provide you that clear crystal path you need to make it easier to track your progress. So let's say your quarterly objective is to reduce your food costs by 10%. Another common one I get from people. Donald, I need to reduce my food costs by 10%. It's at 36. My food cost currently, my actual food cost is 36. My theoretical is 24%. That means I should be able to run 26%. So I need to reduce my food cost 10%. Great goal. Let's break it down. So over a 12-week period, maybe week 1 and 2, I'm going to do a comprehensive review of my current suppliers, look at the contracts, look at the deals, look at the pricing I'm paying. Week 3 to 4, I might negotiate better terms with my suppliers, get better pricing, ask for maybe a PVA, a prime vendor agreement, lock in that kind of percentage above cost. Weeks 5 and 6, I might implement portion control measurements in the kitchen. This is a huge thing for controlling waste and also controlling portion control and also controlling food cost. Maybe I'm going to work 7 and 8. I start working with the team. We start talking about waste reduction techniques, how we can use some of the byproducts that was going in the trash and use them. I have a guy in my coaching program. Now, he's a unicorn. What do I mean by unicorn? He has the lowest food cost I've ever seen in my life. Now, let me give you some backstory here so you don't get blown out of the water by what I'm going to tell you. He's in Australia, very, very small remote town in Australia. He makes everything from scratch. He has a steakhouse. He has really, really amazing relationships with his vendors, so he negotiates the very best deals. He also is meticulous about anything that's in the kitchen gets reutilized as another item. So like they butcher all their meats, all their butcher scraps go into different like meatballs, stews, things like that. For a long time, this goes back to mindset. For a long time, the lowest food cost I've ever seen a restaurant run, real actual food cost, was 18%. And I just thought that's the lowest I've ever seen. In all my years coaching restaurants, I've never seen anybody beat that 18% margin. This guy has a food cost, a real food cost of 11.8%. And you might think like, damn, Donald, that's low. He was at like 13% when he started coaching with me. And just by coaching with me, he's dropped it down almost 2%. That's the power of having a coach, because I'm going to give you new tools. And when I give you new tools, if you apply the tools, you get new results. Right. And then maybe that week 11, 12, I'm going to review my progress and adjust my strategies. The thing is, you got to set milestones with clear timelines when things need to be completed. Not just like, this is like the worst thing I say. What's your goal for this quarter? I want to reduce my food cost by 10%. What's your plan? I don't know. Just cut back, not buy as much. That's not a plan. That's desperation. Desperation doesn't get you successful, right? Having a plan makes you successful. Each milestone has to be achievable. It has to move you closer to your quarterly target, which moves you closer to that yearly target, which means you're going to have that sense of accomplishment and you're going to get some momentum going. And the most important thing about this is that monitor and adjust. The quarterly plan is useless if you're not monitoring and adjusting your approach. At the end of every quarter, and actually I do it like once a month, every month you should have a review session with your team to see what's working, what's not working. Okay. Are we hitting our targets? Are we getting close? How far off are we? What's actually working that's contributing to our success? What's not working? And how can we make it better if it's not working? The review process isn't just about patting yourself on the back and saying, oh my God, we're doing great. Or no blame and shame, pointing fingers and say, this is all your fault. We're not hitting our food costs. This is what it's about. It's about learning and adapting. Write that shit down. The review process is about learning and adapting. It's not about blame and shame. No BS in your restaurant. The biggest problem with most restaurant owners is they do the BS game, blame and shame. Blame and shame will alienate your team. No one wants to work for a place that has blame and shame. Okay, it will just kill you faster than anything. Oh. Okay, got to make sure you're on top of that thing, right? So, if let's say your goal is to increase upsells, right, or upsell on our tickets, but maybe you find your staff isn't consistently offering items to guests like desserts. Go figure, right? That happens a lot. So they're not offering desserts, right? You might think that you need to sit down and invest more time, and you will have to invest more time in training your team, talking about it pre-shift. You also have to understand that there's a lot of external factors, like sometimes your food vendors have a sudden increase in prices. That might meet your ability, that might kind of challenge your ability to meet your food cost reduction target. So you might need to adjust your menu pricing or explore maybe alternative suppliers or removing the item from a menu. This process of monitoring and adjusting ensures that your quarterly plan remains relevant and effective, because circumstances change, things change, markets change. It has to keep your team engaged and focused. Quarterly planning is basically where your strategic vision over the years really starts to come alive. And so many people skip the quarterly planning stuff, right? You got to focus in on those key objectives. You got to allocate your resources wisely. You have to set clear milestones, and you have to constantly, continuously monitor and adjust. If you're not adjusting, you're not being successful. Each quarter is an opportunity to refine your strategies, celebrate your success, learn from your setbacks and mistakes, and keep your restaurant on that path to success. And then we all tie it together with a monthly plan. Monthly plan is the operational grind. Is how we actually implement. When it comes to the day-to-day operation of your restaurant, your monthly plan is where the rubber meets the road. This is where results really happen. This is where your strategic vision and your quarterly objectives translate into daily action that keeps the restaurant running smoothly and also moves you closer and closer to that success that you want. Here's the thing. Monthly plans are not just a breakdown of tasks. They are the operational heartbeat of your restaurant. They ensure every action taken is aligned with your bigger goals. Okay. So How do we do that monthly plan? Well, number one, we have to review our quarterly objectives. So the first thing I do at the beginning of every month, I look over what's our quarterly objectives and I break it down again. What's the milestones we set? Where do we stand in relation to all this stuff? What needs to happen this month to keep us on track? What must happen this month to keep us on track? I align my monthly focus with my quarterly objectives. I ensure that my daily action plans are purposeful and strategic. This alignment prevents you from getting sidetracked by the endless stream of operational challenges that will rise all the time. So I'll give you an example. So maybe one of your quarterly objectives is to, again, enhance guest satisfaction scores by 15%. Your monthly plan might include like launching a new guest feedback program, rolling out maybe some staff training focused on guest interaction, maybe introducing a loyalty program. Each of those actions should be clearly tied to your overarching goal. That's going to ensure that your monthly efforts contribute to your quarterly and also to your yearly plan. After that, you have to create a detailed action plan. This is where the coaching program, we have a lot of tools in our coaching program and Strat Maps. We have a monthly map, which is called the restaurant map. And then we have a weekly plan. It's called the 515. The 515 is the number one tool that will keep you on track and on target. And then if you really have problems with time management, we take that weekly 515, we turn it into a flex map, which is a weekly plan that you will have an action plan for every day on how to implement this stuff. Right? Once you have that monthly objectives, then I have to have that detailed plan. So I take that monthly thing, I break it down. I like to break it down into four weekly targets. Remember, specific, actionable task assigned to individuals. You have to assign tasks to people. You have to give someone accountability and responsibility for them. And then they have to know exactly what I want from them, what's expected, when do I want it done by, and how their efforts are going to contribute to the bottom line. People have to understand the why. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. You have to explain the why to your team more. You have to identify the key tasks that are going to be needed this month. Assign that responsibility, set clear deadlines. So let's say, for instance, this month I want to reduce food cost or food waste by 5%. My action plan might be conduct an inventory audit. Maybe I implement portion control training for the kitchen. I set up a system to track waste on a daily basis, waste logs, waste sheets. Each of those tasks will be assigned to someone on my team with deadlines to ensure timely execution. Right? When everyone's responsible, no one's responsible. A detailed action plan does more than just kind of keep things organized. It creates accountability. That's the key. You will never get the restaurant you want if you do not focus on creating a culture of accountability. When I have a culture of accountability, everyone knows exactly what they need to do, when they need to do it. There's no confusion. There's no procrastination. There's no missed deadlines. This clarity and confirmation is critical in a restaurant because there's very little time for micromanaging. And I know a lot of you waste so much time micromanaging. After I have that detailed action plan, I want to set my KPIs in place for the month. Every month you should have a set of KPIs. That's your key performance indicators that provide like that little snapshot of where your restaurant is at. I always say it's like putting your finger on your throat and checking your pulse. Oh, my pulse is really fast. That's not good. Oh, my pulse is really slow. That's not good. It's beating really nice. That's perfect. In the context of your monthly plan, your KPIs are your best friend. Right? You need to identify the KPIs that are most relevant to your monthly objectives. Those might be guest check average. Those might be prime cost. Those might be table turnovers. That might be discounts and comps. That might be RevPash. There's quite a few. There's like 6 critical KPIs I like to measure and manage. One of our previous webinars, we talked about the KPIs that really move the needle. Go watch that webinar. It will help you out. Okay. So let's say like maybe one of my monthly goals is I just want to improve guest satisfaction scores. So it might include, like, my KPI might include guest feedback ratings, maybe the number of repeat guests, maybe the average time it takes to resolve a guest complaint. You got to keep a close eye on the metrics. The metrics will drive the action. Remember that. Hashtag write this down. Data drives the action. Without data, you don't know what action to take. And when you don't take the right action, you're just going to shift further away from getting the results you want. Okay. Monitoring KPIs isn't just about tracking numbers. It's about gaining insight into what's happening with this number. That's the thing about having a coach is, like, I can look at a P&L and I can tell you within like 30 minutes where you're upside down and where your problems are pretty fast, just by looking at your P&L. Because I know the numbers tell me what's going on beneath the surface. It's like taking your car to a mechanic. Like, you might say, it doesn't sound right, or it doesn't, like, you ever had like your car and it doesn't feel right, doesn't sound right, and it's running rough. I don't know what it is. The mechanic, a really good mechanic, can just listen to the engine and say, I know exactly what the problem is. Same thing. KPIs are like that. They don't tell me exactly what, I mean, I hear something wrong or I see a KPI flashing at me. For me, it's an indicator to look under the hood and see what's really going on. Right? Did I have a drop in guest check average this last week? Is my food cost skyrocketing? Is my labor cost out of control? The KPIs tell me as a warning sign, just like a warning on your car dashboard, I need to look at it and do some investigation. The data is what I need to look at. The data drives the decisions. Decisions drive the actions. Okay. That's so critical. And then you got to have those accountability meetings, regular check-ins with your team. Again, it's not about BS, no blame and shame. It's about moving the team, everything forward. Accountability meetings actually provide a forum to discuss progress, address challenges, no blame and shame, make sure everyone's clear on their role for achieving the objectives. I like to have regular scheduled meetings, either weekly or bi-weekly. Bi-weekly at the latest. Weekly is the best. If your restaurant's struggling, you should start doing weekly meetings. And they don't need to be over a half hour. The number one thing a lot of restaurant owners do is they just they have meetings all the time and just meet their team to death, right? Don't have death by meetings, right? It's the worst thing you can do. You want to have an agenda. Anytime you have a meeting, there should be an agenda. You want to stay on task, on target, on time. Any kind of a meeting. Encourage that open communication. People need to talk about what they feel are the concerns. And again, no blame and shame. Meetings are a great opportunity to celebrate wins, no matter how small. Recognize and acknowledge process and progress. That boosts morale. Okay. Everyone needs a little pat in the back. Hey, we're doing great. Let's just keep going. And then, of course, adjust as needed. Flexibility is the name of the game. It doesn't matter how well your restaurant's going. Things never go as planned. You know that. That's why you have to review your monthly plan as a living document. It has to be adjusted. If something's not working, don't be afraid to pivot. Maybe an item that you put on the menu isn't selling like you expected. Perhaps the staff change. Maybe you have some new staffing that's affecting quality of service. You got to be willing to make adjustments and change when you need to. Okay. Monthly plans are where your strategic vision and your quarterly objectives come into action. They are critical if you want to move that needle moving forward in the right direction. Now, let's talk about two key elements: alignment and consistency. Strategic planning isn't just about setting goals and executing tasks. It's about creating a cohesive and unified approach that aligns every aspect of your restaurant operations with your long-term vision. This is critical. That's the power of strategic planning. It lies in the ability to ensure that all the parts of your business are working together in harmony, and it's driving you steadily towards your objective. To achieve this, alignment and consistency are paramount. Alignment. You got to make sure you're connecting in dots. Monthly action feeds those quarterly objectives. Quarterly objectives support yearly goals. Yearly goals support the long-term vision. That's how those dots connect. Okay. Let's say like my monthly action, let's say for instance, maybe one of my quarterly objectives is to reduce labor costs 5%. So my monthly actions might include like looking over the staff schedules, optimizing shift overlaps, introducing cross-training to improve efficiency. Every task should have a clear connection to our quarterly objectives. Same thing. Maybe my quarterly objective is for the year is to increase overall profitability 15%. Okay. What am I doing? My quarterly objectives might include cost reduction, revenue boosting strategies, improved revenue service or different revenue streams, improved guest satisfaction, increasing traffic. You have to align that quarterly objective with your yearly goal. If you don't tie these things together and have alignment, it will not work. Alignment is critical, making sure that the monthly feeds the quarterly, which feeds the yearly, which feeds the long-term vision of your brand. And then consistency is everything. When alignment ensures that all the parts of your plan are working together, consistency makes sure that it works, okay? Consistency is the glue that holds your strategic plan together. And here's the thing I want you to remember. Strategic planning isn't a one-time event where you set the goals at the beginning of the year and then forget about them. It is an ongoing dynamic process that requires regular attention and refinement, regular reviews and adjustments, constantly tracking, measuring, and monitoring my KPIs, build momentum through consistency. And then, of course, the role of the leader is so critical. You got to have that leadership role. You got to have that leadership plays a major role in consistency. People lead, people follow your direction. As a restaurant owner or leader, it is your responsibility to ensure your strategic plan is not only well crafted, but consistently implemented. This means you have to communicate your vision and goals clearly with your team. We talk about this in the Know Why workshop. We call it the Daily 5 Sermon. Right? I cannot underemphasize or I cannot tell you enough that alignment and consistency in strategic planning is the make or break. You have to have those two. You can write down a bunch of cool goals and stuff like that, but if you do not have alignment with your long-term vision, if the yearly and the quarterly and the monthly and the weekly don't match up and align, and you don't have consistent implementation and consistent feedback and adjusting, it's not going to work. 100%. Okay. Strategic planning is your roadmap to success in this restaurant industry. It is the tool that transforms your vision into reality. It guides your decisions and actions throughout the whole year. Breaking down your goals into yearly, quarterly, monthly, even weekly plans can ensure that every move you make is purposeful and aligned with your long-term objectives. Take time to plan, reflect on the past, set clear goals, map out the steps that you need to take, that you must take. Your effort is put into strategic planning. Any effort you put into this, I tell you, it will pay off in the form of more focused, efficient, and a successful operation. So before we leave, let me ask you a question. Luke knows the question coming up. If I dropped you off in the middle of the woods without anything but a compass, now if you're Nathan, I know Nathan could do it. I talked to Nathan earlier today. I know he could do it. But if I dropped you off in the middle of the woods with just a water bottle, could you make it back to civilization? Most people would say no. But here's the thing. If I gave you a topographical map and a compass, I showed you how to use those two things, you could get back every time you want. Well, that's what coaching is like. The framework I show you in the Accelerator program is the map. The coach is the compass, because you will get off track. And now for the last 14 years, this coaching program has helped it's almost like 2,900 restaurants now. And the biggest element is that coaching provides two things that you need: accountability and new tools. The Restaurant Accelerator is my most powerful weapon out there. There's no other coaching program on the planet that gives you as much information, as much tools, as much resources, as much coaching as the Accelerator program does. It is a step-by-step roadmap. If you want to win the game, you just have to follow the frame. Inside your members area, you have access to hundreds and hundreds of workshops that will help you dial this sucker in. Everything about mindset, about team development, about core values, about hiring, about menu design, about food costing, about marketing, systems, strategy, everything you need to get your restaurant successful and make that 18 to 22% profit margin. Plus, you're going to have a specifically picked out certified restaurant coach by me who's going to help you navigate this thing step by step by step. It includes 3 group calls a week, which you don't have to show up on. They're all replays. You can listen to them if you want to. Plus, you have a one-on-one call every other week with your own personalized restaurant coach. I mean, it's over 200 hours of downloads and 200 hours of video and over 380 hours of downloads. Or 300, let me say it again. 200 hours of video, 380 downloads. Now, Luke and I aren't going to pitch it hard. All you got to do is just speak to somebody on the restaurant growth team or talk to Luke, and he'll set you up for it. All right. Anybody have any questions before we wrap up today? Always like to open up the floor to any last minute questions that anybody has. Questions.
Thank you, Donald. This was great today.
It was
Guys,
good.
this will obviously be, yeah, it's a good one. This will be available on your portal, so you guys know how to find that by now, I'm sure. If you don't, I'll toss a link in the chat box. And you guys can poke around in there.
Now, if you're in the Accelerator program, just so you know, there's 2 websites. A lot of people are like, Donald, I'm in the restaurant growth thing. I don't see any of the stuff you talked about with the Accelerator program. That's because it's on my website that you'll have to have access to. So if you're an Accelerator member, just reach out to me or reach out to your coach, and we'll make sure you have access to our portal too. So you have 2 different portals, which combine the 2 together. That's a lot of information. When you have the restaurant coach stuff, the TRC method, and you have the restaurant growth webinar stuff, plus all the resources that restaurant growth has in their portal. I mean, you really, the only way you can't fail is if you don't do anything, right? I mean, pretty much we guarantee you'll be successful. I've done this with thousands and thousands of restaurants, and trust me, it works. It works. Any questions?
Yav said he's joining in September.
Awesome. Love to have you.
We've got a question here coming in, Donald. Question says from an anonymous attendee. What is the number one? Yeah. What is the number one best time allocation activity that my restaurant can do to increase sales?
To increase sales, work on your culture, work on your guest check average. A lot of times we think increasing sales is all about moving the needle as far as just like marketing. And marketing is great. But if I don't have accurate food cost, okay, and I don't have accurate food cost, it doesn't mean I have a profitable menu. And then I also want to translate those items that are profitable on my menu and work with my team to teach them how to upsell properly. There's 3 techniques we teach in the Accelerator program. We teach upselling, cross-selling, downselling. You need all 3, right? So I would say, like, what's the number one thing? If you don't have your food cost done, like your understand that theoretical actual food cost gap, that's the number one thing you should do with your time, is to understand that theoretical actual food cost. By increasing your profits will increase your sales. Let me ask you a question. And this is a great question I ask a lot of people all the time. Would you rather have a $3 million restaurant doing 2% profit or a $1 million restaurant doing 20% profit? I don't know about you. I'll take the $1 million restaurant doing 20% profit every single time. But unfortunately, a lot of people who come to our Accelerator program are that first scenario. They are $3 million, $5 million restaurants making 1 to 2% profit. That's a lot of work for so little money. And the number one reason is they don't know their food cost. If you're bleeding out money, if you're below 5% profit, just by understanding your food cost dynamics, can easily put 5 points on the board right away. Yeah. Any other questions? Any other questions? Questions? I love questions. I love questions. Give me some questions. Yes, simple math, but understanding and work. Yes, and food costing does take some work. That's why most people avoid it because it's a lot of work. There's a couple critical things that people need to do for restaurant owners that they don't do because it is a lot of work. Number one, and Luke will back me up on this, most people don't have a marketing calendar. They just kind of post randomly. If you don't have a strategic plan for marketing and a way to grow your brand and how to strategically hit the ideal guest that you're supposed to hit, if you just post randomly, you can post all the time. You can post 100 times a day, but if it's not resonating with the right audience, it doesn't matter what you did. You have to have a strategic plan. You have to have a marketing calendar for that. Another thing most people don't do is they don't have a training calendar. They also don't have their food costs done, and most people don't have a budget. All those things are critical if you want to reach high levels of profitability. And we cover all those things in the accelerator program. Am I a Virgo? No, I'm a Taurus. Why do I seem like a Virgo? I'm a Taurus. Taurus, April 28th.
Not sure if
I'm not sure if that's good or bad. I don't know, Titus. I don't know, Titus. Is that good or bad? I'm definitely unique. Let's put it that way. Any other questions? No other questions? Hey, I want to say thanks for being here today. I appreciate when people show up on the webinars. It's a great time for me to get to meet you. And it's also a great time to get you some new tools. Yeah. Excellent. We got to go. Got to live. Yep. Long day brewing. Awesome. Well, I'm going to jump off. Luke will take over. If you have any questions for me, you can always email me, donald@therestaurantcoach.com. You can always reach me in the restaurant growth in the webinar kind of portal. I'm in there. So if you put a question in there in the restaurant growth thing, a lot of times Luke will say, hey, there's a question for you. I'll see it and I'll go answer it for you. So we try to be as open as we can, help you out as much as we can.
Thank you, Donald. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you. I appreciate you too.
All right, guys.
Have a fantastic
Thanks for being
day.
here, guys. Have a good day.